This week, during what we call Holy Week, we are humbly walking with Jesus to the cross and ultimately to our joyful celebration of his resurrection on Easter morning. Specifically, today is what we call in the church Maundy Thursday, the day on which we remember Jesus gathering with his disciples in the upper room on the night before his death on Friday. Maundy is one of those ancient churchy words that often confuses people both in and outside the church. Why is it Monday, Thursday? And I didn't know if it was supposed to be on Monday or Thursday or what was going on. But the word is Maundy, and it's an old Latin term that we derived the English word mandate from. And it refers to a mandate or a command that Jesus gave to his disciples on that last night before he was killed. As it's mentioned in John 13:34, a new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. And by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Later in the same chapter of John, it describes exactly how Jesus demonstrated his love for them. And we read about that in the beginning of the chapter when Jesus demonstrates the full extent of his love by taking on the role of a servant and washing his disciples' feet, which was an ancient custom that we obviously don't practice anymore, but was an ancient custom of hospitality offered by a host to their guest as they entered the home. Begin reading back in John 13, beginning with verse 1. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. And then skipping down to verse 12, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I've set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly, I say to you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. So on this Holy Thursday, as we walk with Jesus to the cross, we pause and meditate on Jesus' command to love one another as he has loved us. How are you loving and serving your brother or sister in the Lord? How are you loving and serving your spouse, your children, your parents, your siblings, your coworkers or classmates, your neighbors in need? Jesus gives us a wonderful model of godly leadership. Jesus leads by serving the people around him, by becoming a servant of all, by taking on one of the most menial and dirtiest jobs, that of washing the filthy feet of his disciples. In this time of crisis, we all need to live out and embody that kind of humility, that kind of humble leadership, which does not seek to lead by intimidation or dominating others, but rather stoops low and takes on even the lowliest of jobs. As we all learn to adjust to these new ways of daily living in the middle of a pandemic, we can still love our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones by socially distancing ourselves out of love, not out of fear, because we care about them, not because we're fearful or panicked about our own condition. But there are other ways we can express that servant-like love as well. I'm sure many of you have seen all sorts of examples of people who are taking on the role of servant leaders by doing some menial task, by sewing masks, for instance, for others to use, by delivering food to needy children and families, by running critical errands for elderly friends to the pharmacy or the grocery store. It takes some creative imagination, I grant you, to know how we can love and serve others in this time, but the effort is worth it. Even a simple phone call or a handwritten card to a lonely person can be a godsend. This afternoon, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm standing in the parking lot of Smith County Community Hospital in the background to remind us what servant leaders look like. Each of the staff here are acting as servant leaders to our community in this time of crisis, as they serve every day on the front lines in our all-out war against the coronavirus. One servant leader who we recently lost is particularly on my mind today. Reverend Neville Mazingo died yesterday, and Neville was a wonderful, humble, loving servant leader who daily walked in the footsteps of Jesus by serving in this very building. And for many years before this building was constructed in the old hospital just a short ways away. But Neville served the people of our community with love, with faithfulness, with the compassion of Jesus. And he was beloved by both his patients, by those he served, by his fellow staff members, and he was beloved by his fellow pastors as a model of faithfulness to his pastoral colleagues in ministry. Even in his retirement, Neville continued to come to the hospital every morning, early in the morning, to pray with and to pray for the patients and the staff here, to offer his warm smile, his firm handshake, and to offer a word of encouragement, to visibly demonstrate the humility, the love, and the healing compassion of Jesus, especially to those who are sick and suffering. So on this Maundy Thursday, let us remember the humble example of Jesus. Let us remember what Jesus has done for us. And as we continue to walk in those footsteps, may we embody that same kind of humility that Jesus demonstrated that night so long ago. And let us give thanks for the many examples around us of those who, like Neville, in their own lives, seek to fulfill Jesus' great command to love one another as he has loved us. Amen.